chapter 4 on Moria scam. We'll be reading together. Stepping on a viper. The long-haul flight had not been idle time. She had spent those hours piecing together everything she knew so far about Agbekoya. Details stitched from the stories Mulika had shared during their many phone calls. Realistic about the challenge ahead, she never pretended the writing would be easy. That is why she had packed a Palm Pilot, trusting its sleek technology to be a reliable companion. Alongside it, she carried a well-worn scrapbook, ready to catch stray thoughts and sudden insights. Now, with a flick of her wrist, she snapped open the Palm Pilot's cover. It was time to revisit her notes. As the screen lit up and she scrolled through the entries, she began to read aloud the opening lines of a chapter she had written. On a crisp January morning, Mulika Kamoru stood resolutely in the wooden dock of the Customary Court in Akanran. The air was thick with anticipation as the Customary Court judge prepared to hear a divorce petition. Mulika's journey to the movement began over 4 years ago, when she was an exuberant 15-year-old. Full of life and dreams, school was her sanctuary, and the 3-kilometer trek through the dense rainforest past cocoa, kola nut and palm tree farms was an adventure she relished. The rainy season brought its own delights. She would often pause to collect snails and mushrooms, treasures hidden beneath the logs and fallen leaves, illuminated by the early morning sun, filtering through the towering trees. The stream she crossed daily, usually a gentle flow, transformed into a roaring torrent after the rains, a challenge she faced with unwavering determination. At community grammar school at Akanran, Mulika's passion for learning made her a top student, and one admired by her peers, who sought her help with their own work. She read Mabel Shegun's My Father's Daughter and said that one day she would author a similar book about her father, Kamoru. After school, Mulika would assist her mother at their modest market stall, selling beans, rice, gari, and other food items. Evenings in her village were filled with the joyous game of 10-10, where she and her friends, with rhythmic hand clapping and leg movements, combined physical coordination with songs to foster coordination, concentration, and memory skills, all while providing a lively and engaging form of play. This playful escape was far more appealing to her than listening to the familiar tales by moonlight of Yagba, many of which she now knew by heart after listening to them through most of her years growing up. Complementing her brilliant mind is Mulika's ravishing beauty. Dark, elegant, tall, and perfectly curvaceous. This charm, however, was to become her downfall. Her striking appearance did not go unnoticed by the local men, particularly Ajireni, a prosperous cocoa farmer. The previous season had been exceptionally fruitful for Ajireni, with his farm yielding a bountiful harvest and market prices soaring to unprecedented heights. Flush with this newfound wealth, Ajireni set his eyes on marrying Mulika. Despite his persistent advances, Mulika firmly rejected Ajireni. Undeterred, he turned to her father Kamoru, who was struggling through challenging times. After discussing the matter with his wife Simbiatu, Kamoru concluded that Mulika marrying Ajireni might be beneficial, especially since she was of marriageable age. After all, her cousin, though younger, was already married and a mother of 2. So they agreed with Ajireni, who promptly paid her dowry and fulfilled all customary obligations. Ajireni envisioned a grand traditional wedding, but Mulika refused, forcing him to abandon the idea. Over the following months, Ajireni hoped Mulika would change her mind and recognized the benefits of marrying him. He even offered to set up a provision store for her in Akanran, like those he had established for his 2 other wives. Education, the type that Mulika was pursuing, was not in Ajireni's plans for her. To him, she would be better off as the mother of his children, bringing them up and operating a trade beside. However, Mulika remained steadfast in her refusal, repeatedly urging her parents to return Ajireni's dowry, emphasizing that he was old enough to be her father. After months of waiting in vain for his new wife, Ajireni informed Kamoru of his desire to claim Mulika, and together they devised a plan. On a moonless night with the village covered in thick darkness, heavy knocks on the wooden door reverberated through the mud-walled house of Kamoru. The loud noise jolted Mulika and everyone else awake. Her father, though expecting the visitors, feigned ignorance and sluggishly moved from his room to the thick doors, asking, "Ẹ̀yin wo nìyẹn? Ṣé ariwo yìí kò wá pọ̀jù ní báyìí?" Had Mulika been more observant, she might have noticed her mother's red swollen eyes earlier that evening, a telltale sign of tears. But even if she had asked Simbiatu, her mother, it was doubtful she would have received an answer that could prepare her for the night's events. As Kamoru opened the door, he was confronted by 4 hulking figures, silhouetted against the darkness. They wasted no time, their mission was clear. Without a word, they stormed into Mulika's room, where she lay half-dressed in her night wrapper, lifting her onto their shoulders and disappearing into the night, ignoring her wails and cries of "Ẹgbẹ́ mi sílẹ̀, kí ni mo ṣe?" The men navigated the bush paths, arriving at Ajireni's home, where they delivered Mulika to his room, locked the door, and stood vigil outside. Experience had taught them that sometimes a woman could overpower her husband and escape, so they remained on guard throughout the night. After sobbing, kicking, fighting, and making all the noise she could, Mulika eventually grew tired and resigned herself to her fate. It was then that Ajireni took advantage of her and consummated the marriage. Over the following weeks and months, Ajireni repeatedly asserted his claim, referring to Mulika as his new wife. Soon, Mulika became pregnant and gave birth to a healthy baby boy. The village celebrated, but Mulika's joy had vanished. Once her son was weaned, Mulika seized an opportunity to escape, pretending she needed to fetch some items. She fled to Ijebu-Igbo, disappearing for 6 months. A search party scoured the area, but she remained elusive until a chance encounter at the market one evening led to her discovery. Following pleas and entreaties, Mulika returned to the village, but refused to go back to Ajireni's house. Now standing in the courtroom, Mulika's vibrant past contrasted sharply with the gravity of her present. Her story, one hitherto filled with youthful exuberance and simple pleasures, had led her to Akanran Customary Court. The night of her abduction had set in motion a series of events that eventually brought her here, seeking a divorce from Ajireni. Chief Samuel Eyitayo Bakare, who was also the Baale of Olorunda, a village in the area, presided over the case, dissolving the marriage and ordering Mulika's parents to compensate Ajireni. This judgment became the Baale's undoing. Ajireni, feeling the solution was unjust, harbored a deep resentment towards the Baale. Unknowingly, the Baale had stepped on a viper. All this was 3 years ago, but the seed of discord never stops germinating as it gets watered each passing day, with events that otherwise would have been no issues. Moria felt a sense of fulfillment with what she had written so far. Her words faithfully captured the tale Mulika had shared with her. Yet she knew there was more to come, more when she arrived in Ibadan. Mulika will be waiting for her. Thank you.